We all understand the type of climate that we're dealing with. We're dealing with multiple offer situations.
I'd love to know sort of what's your why? What makes you tick? Why are you so successful?
Have a dialogue with your lawyer. Have a dialogue with your agent.
Both sort of passionate about sort of what we do.
Again, vet your agent to make sure that they're experienced and they're local. I like that idea.
No excuse to miss it on Saturdays from 8 to 9.
That's right.
WBZ.
And now, the show that gives you the latest and most relevant housing market news. Real Estate Radio Boston with financial expert Rick Shearer and legal professional Ali Alavi.
But what are some of the things that someone like myself would have to look out for or ask when it comes to the contractor selection? What are some of the guidelines you would recommend?
Yeah, see, the course of my 30-year career, it seems hard to say 30 years. I wish it wasn't that long, but it is, unfortunately. What I did was I'd get in these litigation matters. I say, what's kind of the common thread? What am I seeing here that gets people in trouble? So, probably 10 years ago, I just started preparing a list and said, okay, well, this is how I saw this one come up. And I tinker with this list like all the time. And so what I did finally was I prepared this sheet that you have in front of you called The Key Factors When Hiring a Contractor. And basically it goes through the processes. It gives you a website so you can go to and you can refer to see. Like, the Superior Court, see how many times they've been sued. Being sued doesn't necessarily mean anything, but who they hire as attorneys does. And also what really matters is what's the outcome of those disputes. You want to see them settle things rather than fight things tooth and nail.
Right.
Interesting.
So I got a bunch of websites in there and some other information that people can go through. I mean, there's going to be problems in every single project. And what you want to find is a contractor who's willing to work their way through those problems.
Right.
So if you look at the law firm they hire, for example, all law firms have personalities. If they hire a law firm that takes everything to the mat, I mean, that's just not a situation that you want to get involved with. So what this does is it just gives you like basic, like one of the questions, just basic information. When were they formed?
Right.
Like right now I'm dealing with a litigation with a contractor made up a fake company and signed a contract under the name of a fake company. That company doesn't exist.
Wonderful.
He is then uninsurable, right? He cannot get insurance for this project. So I've got directions to the state, the Secretary of State's office. So you can figure out how long they've been in business. Are they licensed? Are they registered? If they're registered, is there any sort of claimed history on their registration? So there's a lot of stuff that the homeowner can do online to kind of get some background information on the company itself.
What are some of the things that I should be, as a consumer, ask a particular construction company to give myself confidence?
Yeah, what you want to find out more than anything else, it really kind of depends on the where we are in the construction cyclical nature. Construction is very cyclical. Right. Right now we're in a recovering phase. All right, we're not at a fully mature construction phase. We're in a recovering phase. So what's the greatest risk and reward of a recovering phase? And that kind of dictates some of the questions that you want to ask your contractor. Like the risks right now are 75% of all construction failures happen during a recovery because the contractors have the work, but they don't have the working capital to carry the work. So there's your biggest risk right now. Okay, so somebody might say, well, then I'm not going to get a contractor during a recovery phase. Well, that's not necessarily the truth, because right now you can get your best contractors, and you can still get a decent deal. Once the construction economy totally heats up, and you're competing with China's of the world for sheetrock, aluminum, concrete, well, then you're dealing with astronomical prices. So right now, the advantages, what you can leverage out of this kind of an environment, is you get good contractors, you get decent prices.
All right.
And right now, at this particular time, you have low interest rates. I mean, it's a very, very good time to undertake a construction project.
Tell the listeners out there that don't know about Mass Save a little bit about Mass Save and how can they take advantage of it?
Absolutely. So Mass Save is a energy efficiency initiative sponsored by the Massachusetts utility companies. They promote kind of energy efficiency and kind of keeping your costs down. So through rebates, there's incentives to do work, move forward with work. There's a no-cost home energy assessment that's available to you. There's a 0% interest loan that could be available to you. So a lot of different avenues to reduce your energy costs, be more comfortable in your home, and just kind of manage your energy use.
Talk to us a little bit about why is there such an initiative from someone supplying all the energy to us to actually make us more efficient?
So we could get deep into this conversation.
No, we're on 10,000 feet. That's fine.
Yeah, there's a couple things going on in Massachusetts. One is policy. So there are some acts involved of the companies have to do this kind of regulations to do this.
We love it.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. But then also we've seen rising electric costs throughout the last year, and it has to do with the amount of gas that can come up to Massachusetts. So we get our gas gets piped in. Well, that pipe's maxed out, so they can't service those customers.
Sure.
So the lower amount that we use per house, they're able to service more customers as well.
And they added so much value to us.
That's just the instant savings. I mean, there's incentives for replacing your outdated heating equipment or your outdated hot water equipment, and also insulation. I mean, typically, the houses around here were built a long time ago, and
Sure.
the energy efficiency just wasn't part of that construction process. So I did energy assessments in Boston area for about 4 years. Many houses, no insulation at all. So,
Wow.
I mean, as far as savings and comfort, huge benefits to insulation and air sealing. So, and the incentives are pretty good. I mean, they'll give you up to 75% off, up to $2,000 for insulation. They'll do no-cost air sealing. Air sealing is kind of sealing up air leaks in the house and everything. So there's some big opportunities for people.
Well, tell us
good
a
to be
little bit
back.
about your firm, your practice.
So we're a general estate planning practice firm. We help families develop a plan to care for children, loved ones, incapacitated people. We help when someone dies to sort out the paperwork, make proper elections for tax purposes. And then we also work with families, so obviously with the eventuality of death, to try to make sure that process goes smoothly afterwards.
Sure.
And we also do a lot with elders to protect assets and preserve assets from taxes and other things.
One of the things you wanted to talk about today, I mean, it's sort of fresh on everybody's mind. Whitney Houston's daughter passed away this past week after her sort of episodes and challenges that she was faced with. But there's a backstory. There's another whole story there that we can learn from to not make those mistakes. Let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, she died very young. It's a very sad situation of what happened to Bobby Christina. But, the idea that she didn't have an estate plan at 21 isn't absurd or unfathomable. So
I would probably venture to say that 95% of 21-year-olds don't have, probably
99.9.
Yes.
don't have an estate plan.
That said, it was interesting. I kind of forgot about some of the background of Whitney and her family and what happened when she died, and,
Sure.
and did a little bit of digging. And the history of the family is riddled with estate planning issues. And I thought, from Whitney, from her dad to now Bobby Christina, there's still a continuation of what's going to happen, and there's a lot of questions that got raised by
will, and they just sort of hang their hat on the fact that they've got a will. How often do you think people should look back at the will and update it, famous or not famous?
I mean, every few years is a good idea to really evaluate whether you're at a life-changing event, and to really determine whether or not it makes sense. Read through, who do you have serving for you? Have those people moved on or passed away or fallen out of favor? It's a good idea to just take a look, and if something big has happened, it's definitely worthwhile to probably update that.
Besides updating your will, what additional message, what additional lesson is there to be learned based on the story that we've heard today?
I think it's important that you really evaluate what your estate plan is and where you want things to go. Another example in here was that Whitney's father remarried after divorcing her mother. Mm-hmm. And he had some provisions and some written instructions that I think between his accountant and some other people that certain life insurance policies were going to be used to pay off a mortgage that Whitney had granted to him and and her stepmother. And he didn't update the beneficiary designations, so the beneficiary was Whitney. And so Whitney claimed that life insurance beneficiary and still then proceeded to put a claim against the mortgage that she had against the house.
She actually foreclosed on the house, and it went all the way up to the federal court, and I think it was upheld that she could foreclose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She didn't get to the eviction part because she had passed away, but untimely. But these are all things. I have clients that come in and they meet with me and they say, I want this to happen. I want these people to care for my kids. I want this person to act on my behalf for health decisions. And then they say, so it's in effect now, right?
Gotcha.
And no one signed anything, so absolutely not.